Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS slate breakdown for April 15th. It is tax day, unfortunately, so let's go make some more money to pay next year. I'm your host, Tyler Wiemann. Come join us at LineStar. I'm going to take you through today's picks. We're going to start off with some review of yesterday. Big special show with that one. And then we're going to go into some pitchers to consider, followed by stacks. Let's dive in. And a reminder, if you've never tried us out before, go to the App Store. You get a 7-day free trial through Android or iOS App Store. All right, jumping in. Let's first take a look at the perfect lineup on DraftKings. Shane Baz, Tariq Skubal. You guys had a day. We talked about both these guys yesterday on the pod, and they did it. Then we got a two-man Cubs stack, two-man Padres stack. We did talk about the Padres, and they definitely came through. But the big story was Tampa Bay. Only one guy got into the perfect lineup, but their whole team went nuts. So those stacks really played up for Tampa Bay. All in all, 270.65 was the perfect lineup. And the winning lineup went to Seabrass34, who had Clay Holmes, another guy we talked about, who put up 26.25, and Shane Baz. Then they had the classic five-man Tampa Bay stack, a one-off of Tatis, and then a two-man Brave stack, and that Brave stack went nuts. Murphy hit a home run. Riley hit two. So congrats to him. 237.55 got it done. You know, not too bad there. 33 points less than the perfect lineup. Congrats to you. And let's check out the perfect lineup on FanDuel. And what we got here today, we have Shane Baz. Then we have a three-man Rays stack, a two-man Padres stack, one off with Mookie and Nolan Arenado. 356.4 perfect lineup. Congrats. And then the winning lineup went to MH, 125K. Congrats to you. He had Baz. He had that four-man Tampa Bay stack. He had Tatis. He had Ohtani. And it went to all one-offs, which is kind of rare after the four-man stack. There's usually some sort of correlation, but he nailed Austin Riley, nailed Ohtani, nailed Tatis, and then Javi Baez did just enough to get it done with 12. And he was only 2,200, so great value there. Now, a very special shout out to Soccer Geek. He won the WFBC ticket yesterday. Total of 16K value. Congrats to him. Skubal. The old four-man Tampa Bay stack and a four-man Dodger stack got it done. It's only a contest of 60. You don't need quite as high of a score. 233.4 got it versus the 294 you had to have to win it. You got it done. Congrats, Eli. Congrats, Soccer Geek. If you guys do not know, he is one of the engineers here at LineStar, so give it up. I look forward to see what you can do at the WFBC contest. Now, let's dig in to today's slates. Starting with DraftKings. We got an 11-game slate. It's an interesting one. A lot of different ways to play this. Pitching is tough today. Let's dive into it. Jeffrey Springs, 8,200, 22% owned versus the White Sox. Obviously a good matchup. White Sox aren't very good. Their splits are showing it. Springs has some pretty sneaky upside. 3.25 FIP over his last 20, 27% K rate over his last 5, 3.8 FIP, so not quite as good. The ERA is all the way down to 2.77, but a 26% K rate. The StatCast data is interesting. He's allowing a ton of fly balls, but not much hard contact. Only 20% hard contact, 15% line drives, a lot of soft contact with 26.7% soft. Missing bats, only 2 barreled balls. The issue, fly balls are very, very high and the wind's blowing out to left. So a little bit of worry there, but with a team that's not hitting the ball very hard, a lot less worry. Over the last 20 games versus lefties, only a 90 ISO, 211 average, striking out 29.4%. Think there's some major upside here for Springs. I'm fine having some Jeffrey Springs. Next, Charlie Morton, 6,500. He is super cheap. He's going to come in pretty high owned because of this. He hasn't been great this year. But Charlie Morton is kind of like Lance Lynn a year or two ago. High FIP, high ERA, but we'll put it together for a couple games and will really bring the K's in those games. He does have that ceiling to get to those high 20s at 6,500. Not many guys can get there. Excuse me, still dealing with a bit of a cough there. Now, if he's on, this could play very well, but StatCast data is very scary. 42% hard contact rate, 7 barreled balls, very little soft contact, at least more ground balls than fly balls. It was only 27% fly balls, but we know from Morton, he can absolutely give up the long ball. I think stacking Cleveland with Morton likely being a high-owned play is very interesting today. However, I also got to say that Morton is too cheap for his ceiling. I don't mind having a little bit of Morton, but I do like the leverage in Cleveland also. This is one very hard to call. I don't mind if you play either side. Morton's too cheap for the ceiling. Plain and simple. But he carries a lot of risk also, especially if he is high owned. Ryan Papoy, 7,400, 18% owned versus the Red Sox. What did we say yesterday with Shane Baz going? We said there's strikeout upside here. Red Sox are very hit or miss so far to start the year. And that happened. Ton of Ks for Baz. He had a game. Papoy has looked decent this year, but not that great. He's not as good as Shane Baz, but there is some upside here. I don't mind going with Papoy here. Red Sox striking out at 25%. The StatCast data shows the BVP data, 43% K rate. Papoy versus the Red Sox, so that's obviously interesting. Combined K rate, 24.5. I don't mind some Ryan Papoy in this situation. He has some big-time upside. He has done well versus Boston in the past, but it is not a slam dunk. This offense can get it going. They can get rolling, and you don't want to be on the other side of that buzzsaw when they do, but they can also be pretty bad at times, and we have seen it's feast or famine out of the Red Sox so far this year. So I don't mind a little bit of Papoy, but also understand it's like 80 degrees and winds are blowing out in a small stadium, hitter-friendly, confines of Steinbrenner Field. So I don't mind playing either side of this. Papoy probably too cheap or his upside. I like him. Next, we got some pivots here. Jack Flaherty, 9K, 15% owned versus the Brewers. Flaherty, last 2 games, very good. I absolutely don't mind him. He has upside in the strikeout department. 29% K rate over his last 5. StatCast data, a little scary with 46% fly balls, but all in all, I think he is fine, and I don't mind him whatsoever. His Brewer offense is decent. BVP data is decent. He's one of the better pitchers on the slate, and so I think you got to consider him. And my Mouth is getting a little dry there. Or I should say my throat. So, with this situation and a 25% combined K rate, I'm fine going to Flaherty. I don't need to go all out on him, though. But I do kind of like him. Next, we got Max Fried, 9,500, 14% owned. I love the spot for Fried. He's probably my favorite pitcher on this slate. Been very solid. 3.23 FIP, 2.56 FIP over the last 5. K rate's decent. StatCast data looks pretty good. Opponent splits are not in Fried's favor. Royals have hit lefties pretty well over the last 20 games. Not quite as good over the last 150, but one thing I do have to say is this Royals offense has really struggled to put it together. Max Fried BVP data versus them is good, but super small sample size. And then you don't see a combined K rate for Fried at 26.4 very often. This is a good matchup. I don't mind going to Fried versus the Royals with him being at home. Next, Hunter Brown, 10K, 12% owned versus St. Louis. St. Louis offense keeps putting it together. They put up like 9 runs yesterday, 8, 9, 10, something like that. They keep getting it going and scoring in a ton of different ways. Hunter Brown's been very good, though. 2.94 FIP over his last 20, 2.52 over his last 5. K rate's up there. StatCast data looks great. The worry thing about the Cardinals, they're not striking out a lot, and they've been a very good offense lately. Do think they are hitting a little over their head, though. I don't think Nolan Arenado is back to prime Nolan Arenado. I think some of these young guys are having a very good start to the year, but pitchers will adjust, figure them out a little bit. I think Hunter Brown's in an okay spot, and he's probably the best pitcher on this slate, so it's him or Swollenbach. So I don't mind getting some Hunter Brown in this spot. Feel like we got to talk about Swollenbach here because he's 10.5K. He's in a tough spot. Blue Jays barely striking out versus righties. 15% K rate, but Swollenbach is an absolute beast. He just doesn't have the K rate in this matchup that I would want at his price. Therefore, I'm probably not going to get much to him. But, look, 7.5 game total. It's a pitcher-friendly park. I don't mind having a little bit of him if he's in my lineups, but I'm absolutely not pushing to get extra of him in this spot. And now let's get over to FanDuel, see what we got there. High-owned, Springs, Flaherty, Morton. Makes sense there. I don't mind any of them. Morton, 7,800 is still too cheap over here also. He does have the upside to get it done. And pitch count-wise, he can get to 6 innings. You know, he can give you that quality start too. I'm all right there. Hunter Brown, I think, is very interesting. Max Fried is super interesting. Papoy at 8,800 carries a little interest. Outside of that, I'm probably not too interested in anybody. Walker Buehler started to look much more like it himself. I could be talked into that, but I don't love this spot versus the Rays that are hitting the ball pretty well. Now, let's get into some stacks. All right, so let's start off with highest owned. We got Dodgers, 56% owned versus Ryan Feltner. We got Cy Feltner came out last game. Don't think that's going to happen versus the Dodgers. I'm fine having some Dodger stacks. One thing I have to say, Dodgers been very, very consistent scoring runs, but they are not having those big, huge onslaught games. Now, could it happen against Feltner? Absolutely. Rockies aren't very good. The bullpen's not very good. It does make some sense to want to pick on them. Rangers versus Kikuchi. Very fascinating spot for me. Kikuchi is either very, very good or can get blown up. Sorry about all the coughing, guys. If I refilm, it's just going to happen again. Just got to get through this. So I like Kikuchi. Think he's a very interesting spot. Or I should say I like the Rangers. I don't love stacking. I don't love using Kikuchi as a pitcher. Think there's big time upside with some Rangers. Also, as far as what the ownership's saying, 56%, 50%, that doesn't bother me whatsoever. I will not be fading an offense just because of that. 11-game slate, just too many ways to get different elsewhere to be worried about a 50% ownership. Dodgers, Yankees, popping up for highest projected. One thing I wanted to point out that I thought was interesting, 25 plate attempts against Waka for Judge. He's hitting .048. Not too great. Judge has had a rough time. Judge has also been a little cold after his just torrid start. I'm fine with going some Yankee bats. Interesting spot, but I'm also not huge about it. Cubs versus Vasquez. I think the Cubs are a very, very interesting spot today. Definitely going to have some Cubs. That offense has been very good. Vasquez keeps escaping low-run games. He keeps getting it done, but he's going to get blown up soon. I promise you that. I just don't know when. Now, highest value stacks, we got Colorado versus Landon Knack. Makes a ton of sense to go here. I don't mind a little bit. Dodger Stadium produces home runs. If Rockies can steal a couple bases, hit a couple home runs, stacks there look interesting, and Knack hasn't been great. 5.06 FIP over his last 20 starts. Highest ceiling stacks, Cubs. Makes a ton of sense versus Vasquez. 4.62 FIP over the last 20, 4.93 over the last 5. I like the Cubby stacks, unfortunately. With that being said, I also don't mind some Padres stacks. And highest leverage, we got Cubs and Yankees. Click the teams tab. 5.3 implied runs for both Baltimore and Tampa Bay. Both are very interesting. Tampa Bay is going to end up being a little bit lower owned. Angels versus Texas with 5. Dodgers at 5. Yankees at 5. Cubs at 4.8 versus Vasquez. Padres bullpen has been very good, though. That's the one worry about the Cubs. Colorado bullpen been terrible. Big plus to the Dodgers in that standpoint. Mets at 4.8. The wind is blowing out. Bailey Ober has allowed 40.5% hard contact and a high average exit velocity. Makes a lot of sense to want some Mets today. A's at 4.5. Braves at 4.5. Detroit at 4.5, Houston at 4.5. All of them are in play. None of them really pop out to me. None of them are I need to play them. I do have to say, though, the Tigers versus Priester are a little bit interesting, and that bullpen behind him has been bad so far. Cleveland, I like the leverage stack against Charlie Morton. I think they're very interesting. Morton's allowed very high average exit velocity and hard contact rate. Outside of that, if we're down here, other stacks I'm interested in, Texas versus Kikuchi. Terrible bullpen behind him. He's allowed hard contact. And then people are going to hate on me for saying the Padres again. But, hey, Padres are averaging over 5.3 runs per game at Petco. And Shota has not been what we saw last year yet. He's allowing a lot of barreled balls, allowing some hard contact. The bullpen behind him is shaky. And Padres have been raking versus lefties. So, little interested in some Padres. They're going to be low owned. I won't have a ton of them, but I see a path to some success there. And that'll do it for us today, guys. I hope you guys have a good one. We'll be back for more tomorrow. Peace!